What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. We've got a crazy bit of news here, so shout out to Solaris, who is the data miner for One Piece Treasure Cruise and the manager of the One Piece Treasure Cruise database. We have information about some new characters that are debuting for the new Pirate Rumble banner that will be dropping relatively soon. I don't think there's an exact date, or I'm not 100% sure when the date is yet, but it is coming very shortly. We should get the data download for it tomorrow, and then we should also get the official announcement the day after, so definitely look forward to it. But we got some pretty interesting stuff to talk about here. We've got Shinobu and Riso, as well as a brand new Cat Viper character. These are limited to Pirate Rumble banners, as we have touched up on. However, interestingly enough, Shinobu and Riso are actually a Pirate Rumble legend. And this is a little bit crazy because this character does not have an unevolved form. It's only available as a 6-star character. So there was very left field when we did see that, you know, this was going to be the character, but very odd that it doesn't have an unevolved form. That doesn't typically happen for a Rumble legend. And then, of course, we've got a new Cat Viper, which is another Rumble rare recruit. But another thing that we'll talk about in a little bit is also the brand new batch of Sugo-Medal exchange characters, which is interesting to talk about. So let's just jump in. Let's start with Cat Viper first. So Cat Viper here is int, shooter, and slasher. I believe the other character here is also shooter and slasher. Yeah, they're both shooter slasher. Strength for Shinobu Raizo, int for Cat Viper. Remember that this is a Rumble rare recruit. The character's abilities are pretty bad. Like, don't even worry about these effects. They're just absolutely garbage. Let's move on to the more important effects, which is the Pirate Rumble kit. So the attack pattern is pretty typical for an offensive style unit. Attacks nearby enemies, it resists special bind completely, damage reduction versus side characters, and the Rumble ability here will apply level 5 attack and HP to int, but then applies level 5 speed and critical hit to slashes. So that, I'm not really a big fan of this Rumble ability, because, I mean, let's talk about just int in general, because the int component of his Rumble ability is the best component, and, I mean, 5 attack and HP is okay, and then speed and crit is not even good buffs, to be honest, and it's only for slashes, so yeah, he himself will get this. But in terms of other int characters that you would normally use on an int team that are also slasher, there's really not a lot of them. So it's a pretty weird Rumble ability here. And then the special here, 32-second CT, 3.2 attack in large sideways range. So this is a horizontal range, 3.2 is pretty good for a Rumble rare recruit to hit. And then if there's 4 or more int characters on your crew remaining, it deals 3,000 fixed damage to 3 enemies. We'll have to see the official wording, because I believe this is Solaris's official, well, it's Solaris's wording in this, so this is not the official wording. We'll have to see when the character is officially released, but this could be kind of bad, because if there's only 4 more int remaining, it means that having him on the bench might not actually be a good thing, because if he uses his special and you have 3 remaining int characters, then this just won't work. We'll have to see what it officially says, but if this does work, you know, as intended, you know, 3,000 fixed damage to 3 enemies is pretty good, but you do have to take up a whole crew slot just to get 5 attack and HP on your int characters. In my opinion, I don't think this character is very good. It's a little bit of an underwhelming Rumble rare recruiting. Considering he is shooter as well, I was really hoping to see some really cool shooter buffs. Like, it would have been interesting if, like, all of these buffs were just for shooter and slasher characters instead. I think that would have been a very, very interesting team build there. But that is Cat Viper. Let's move on to the next character, which is a lot more exciting. The Sugo Fest exclusive, Pirate Rumble Sugo Fest exclusive, Shinobu and Riso, as we've already touched upon, is a strength shooter and slasher. Now remember, this is a legend, so they have like a normal captain and special, but of course it is a Rumble legend, so does not have a super type, super class, EX super, etc., which is the unfortunate part. But the captain ability of this character is going to give shooter, slasher, and free spirit characters 5 times attack, boost HP of shooter, slasher, free spirit by 1.2, and then give an attack boost against delayed enemies, defense reduction enemies, poison enemies, paralyzed enemies, or burnt enemies by 1.1. So let's pull up the calculator real quick. So it's 5 times boost with a 1.1 bonus. So if you have one of those debuffs inflicted on the opponent, 5.5 is actually pretty decent. But of course, you do have to get those abilities to activate. Furthermore, If a barrier penetration enabled character hits a perfect, reduces increased defense by 2 turns. So this is really strong, obviously, and I love that they're doing this for a lot of these shooter characters. You know, characters like Izo, Legend Izo that came out a couple of months back does this and synergizes well with this character. But more importantly, Ben Beckman Lucky Roo, which is like the best version of those shooter type captains, not only because he removes all 3 of those defensive effects by 1 turn, but also because he also gives -2 cooldown to shooters. So if you're running like that full shooter team, then Ben Beckman Lucky Roo is definitely better. However, the fact that this character also boosts slasher characters and free spirit means you can run some pretty cool stuff with this unit. So captain ability wise, I don't have too many qualms with it. It just has this really unique component to remove increased defense, which is really cool, of course. But, you know, to be honest, it's just not really going to see a lot of play because, again, no super type, no EX super, no cooldown as well. So I don't think this character is going to see a hell of a lot of play as a captain, that is. So the crewmate effects are pretty bad, honestly. I mean, this character basically has neutral damage versus quick, so that's okay, I guess. The special ability is very, very interesting because this special ability for a Rumble Legend is actually kind of surprising. So it does 300 times their attack and strength damage to all enemies at the end of the turn for 3 turns. So end of turn damage for 3 turns is obviously very, very good. And I guess this is like the Shinobu component of this character because there's been other Shinobus in the past that have done end of turn damage. So this is cool. End of turn damage for 3 turns is always a good thing. It removes all turns of poison and blindness, so that's actually really cool. Not too many characters remove blindness. And it also removes chain limit and chain coefficient reduction. So basically chain locks and chain reductions are gone, but it only removes those debuffs by 7 turns. So, you know, removing chain lock is a bit of a weird one because, you know, you could have a bunch of these really good buffs activated on your side of the field, including chain boundary or really good chain locks, and this character can actually remove those. It's a double-edged sword, right? Where both it can be a very, very good thing. If you get given a nasty chain lock on your side of the field, you can remove it, but you do have to be very careful because you can remove some of your beneficial ones as well. So overall, end of turn damage, a little bit of utility here, seems pretty good thus far. Furthermore, if your captain is a shooter or free spirit character, you boost the attack against delayed enemies and burnt enemies by 2.25 for 1 turn. So a 2.25 conditional against 2 different debuffs, pretty good. Furthermore, it does say that if you have a slasher captain, then it ignores delay debuff protection and delays all enemies for 1 turn. So this is pretty massive. It means that if you have a captain that is a slasher shooter or a slasher free spirit, you get a self-proccing delayed conditional boost. It's pretty good for a Rumble Rare Recruit. Plus, you got to think everything else that's happening here. End of turn damage, removing debuffs. It's pretty good. Furthermore, it says that if the HP of your crew is 91% or above when you launch the special, you get a 90% health cut, and then it boosts the final tap attack of slasher and shooter characters by 30% for 1 turn. So this is the same kind of effect that the new Legend Momonosuke has. It's supposed to work with Momo, it works with Izo, it works with the whole scabbards that have been releasing over the past couple of months, including Kawamatsu, who was also another Rumble Rare Recruit that came out a couple months back too. So I understand why they're doing all of this. This part of the special is kind of whatever, but when you have a look at the potential abilities of this character does have barrier pierce, which makes sense with the whole structure of the character, but it is actually like the bad version of barrier pierce, where it only activates if you are above 80% or below 20% HP at the start of the turn. So this allows you to, you know, get that low HP threshold so you can use characters like Legend Izo, who had a final tap that would allow you to do more damage, but the final tap would only activate when you're at low HP, like below 20 or 30% or something like that. So this character is built to work with Legend Izo that did come out before. And to be honest, I don't really like it that much. But you just got to think outside of the scabbards, right? Just generally speaking, if you run a slasher shooter or a slasher free spirit captain, which there's plenty of, then you can get access to a self-proccing delayed conditional, removing resilience basically with the end of turn damage, removing poison blindness, 7 turns of bad chain debuffs. I think it's actually a pretty useful character. But I think the most important part, obviously, this is a Rumble Legend. Let's have a look at the Rumble stuff. Unfortunately, the support is pretty bad too, which is a little bit of a shame. But the stuff in PvP is interesting here. So the attack pattern is whatever. There's a bit of healing stuff, which is interesting. Resist Special Bind, which is cool, and Dex damage reduction. But have a look at this Rumble ability here. This is pretty good. So it gives level 6 attack, HP, and speed to shooters. That's already pretty decent. Furthermore, For the first 4 times that this character takes damage, applies level 1 defense buff to your crewmates. This is really cool. So this means, realistically, you could get 6 attack, 6 HP, 6 speed, and 4 defense for your entire shooter squad. Seems pretty good, especially if you place this character in the right position so that they are actually tanking hits, so that you can get that defense as fast as possible. I think that this actually has a place in shooter teams, at least right now, and you need to have a look at this special, because this special is very, very good. First thing that stood out is the fact that it's 25 CT. You don't see too many low CT Rumble specials, especially for Legends that come out, like especially recently. A lot of the characters that come out that are Legends, their specials are always over 30. So when you see 25 CT, that's already very, very good. And then you have this effect that does 100% chance to action bind all enemies in a large horizontal range for 10 seconds. Guaranteed action bind for 10 seconds. And then applies level 5 CT speed up to your shooters for 20 seconds. And then 2000 fixed damage to a single enemy 5 separate times. This is really strong, and shooters of old have had these effects where they do lots of hits of damage, but they're always a really low multiplier. This type of effect is much, much better because it's fixed damage, and it's a lot easier to apply more damage to the opponent when you're doing big fixed damage hits rather than multipliers times your attack. Because even at like level 150, for example, with like expansion and stuff, Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo really don't hit that much damage. You know, they hit like a bunch of different enemies a bunch of times, but it's like 0.7 or 0.8 times their attack, and it just doesn't do a lot of damage. And I will admit that shooters still lack really good heavy damage dealing characters. But this is a nice character that can assist your shooters, because not only does it do 2k fixed damage 5 separate times, so totaling for 10,000 fixed damage, but also level 5 CT speed up for your shooters for 20 seconds. On a 25 CT, this character is probably going to go first or second on your list of specials, and having this CT buff for such an extended period of time is really good. You're stopping the opponent from launching specials against you by action binding them. Of course, it is only in a large horizontal range, and quite a lot of characters do have the ability to resist action bind in general. But I think, normally, and generally speaking, this is actually a really good special, along with a good Rumble ability that will help shooters a lot. I don't think it's going to make shooters the best team in the world, but I definitely think that it's going to help them out in the long run. So we'll have to wait and see. Shooters do still need more support. This isn't going to make shooters the best team in the world, but it's a nice step forward. And finally, to wrap up the video, we have the Sugo-Medal exchange information for the month of December. So this is the final Sugo-Medal exchange of 2023, and no surprise here that they are going to be implementing some of the Christmas characters, some of the special Christmas characters. So we'll start from the bottom here. We've got some interesting limited rare recruits here. You've got Burundi World, I think, is one that you may want to pay attention to. However, these are permanent, so I guess you just kind of pick them up when you need them. But Burundi World is really cool because he removes attack down completely on your crew. Like, that's incredibly valuable. Also a damage dealing special, so that's something good to note. And he's a shooter, so shout out to the shooters. This Vivi is pretty bad. I really wouldn't worry about her too much. Sengoku is interesting. He removes a bunch of special bind, and I think he removes attack down, and he gives you an orb boost. But the problem with Sengoku is that he doesn't have a crewmate ability to resist special bind on himself, so it only works when special bind is inflicted on other characters except for himself. So Sengoku doesn't really have a lot of use in the game. It's a little bit unfortunate, really bad design, but these characters are okay in their own right. As for the monthly limited characters here, you've got a bunch of these special time Christmas characters. Most of these characters are really bad. You've got the Chopper, the Robin, the Neko. They're pretty bad. On the other end, you've got Tashigi, Law, and Bonnie. Also really bad. However, the characters in the middle, you have a Luffy, a Sabo, and an Ace character. So if we go over to the database, we can actually go ahead and have a look at what these characters do. So this Luffy here, they're previously released treasure map characters. His special allows you to get a 1% health cut, so if you're inflicted with stun, he can help you get rid of that. Removes 1 turn of barrier, also can be useful. Resilience by 3, a little bit mediocre, and then a rainbow 1.75 attack boost, and it's a Luffy character. It gets access to really good supports, so Luffy's pretty cool, and his support attaching to Ace, Garp, Sabo, Dadan, and use a special, change the orb of the character into recovery, reduce resilience by 2, a little bit niche, but still pretty good. And remember, these are limited, so once the month of December has concluded, you cannot pick these characters up again. So if you want to get some of these units, you have to get them when they're available. Ace is the next one, and I actually don't have this Ace. I don't actually know what he does. His special is damage to a single enemy and reduces defense by 100%. And if you're on a treasure map, you get a defense and conditional boost. Otherwise, it's a 1.5 times conditional boost. So this is pretty bad. It does reduce defense by 100%, which can be useful, but only a 1.5 conditional is pretty bad, honestly. His support says When you use the special of the unit, boost attack against reduced defense enemies by 1.3. Does attach to Luffy, Garp, Sabo, Dadan. Can be useful, but I don't think he's actually that good. Sabo is actually a pretty interesting one because I have used it in the past. So this character, damage dealing special, attack down by 3, changes block into matching, and a 1.75 color affinity. So not a great special, but the support, attaching to the same characters, if you use the special of the supported character, you get a 1.3 psi color affinity for 1 turn. This can definitely be useful, and the fact that it attaches to Luffy and Ace, and there is plenty, or even Garp as well, there's plenty of Psi, Garp, Ace, and Luffy characters, so I do think that this may be a support that you want to look out for. Moving past that, you have the Sugo Fest exclusives. So for the 250 tokens, you've got V2 Vivi Rebecca and V2 Shirahoshi Mancherry, the Christmas legends, and they're okay. Shirahoshi Mancherry definitely sees way more play than Vivi Rebecca. We'll have to wait and see because a lot of people are predicting that we're going to get a Christmas legend as the next super evolution for the month of December, and if that is the case, then one of these two characters could be super evolving this month, but again, that's just all speculation. We'll have to wait and see exactly. For 400 medals, you got a lot of weird ones here. Bartolomeo for 400 medals, while he has one of the best supports in the game, I don't think 400 medals is going to be all that worth it. 400 medals for Jack, he just doesn't really see any play anymore. However, he is very good in Pirate Rumble, so you do have to keep that in mind. Quick Whitebeard for 400 medals, definitely not. Christmas Chopper for 400 medals is pretty decent, I guess, if you get his Super Evolution and stuff. He's actually a very good unit and does see a lot of play, but for 400 medals, it does seem very expensive. Remember, all of these characters are generically released legends. They're available on all normal red tickets that you get access to in One Piece Treasure Cruise, so do keep that in mind. Magellan, he's terrible, don't even worry about it. And then Kinemon Denjiro, I actually did use in one of my PKA teams recently. He's okay, but he doesn't really see a hell of a lot of play. But then you move on to 600 medals at the top there, and you've got Super Tandem Law, who is amazing, by the way. Still has one of the best kits in general. Paralysis reduction captain, great special ability, and a super tandem that is pretty accessible and works really well with a lot of other Luffy characters in the game. He's just a good unit. And then you got Rayleigh Gaban, who I've used a ton. Great captain ability, removing attack down, and then his switch and special, removing a lot of special bind. Great orb boost, synergizes as well with 6+ Gold D Roger. Rayleigh Gaban is definitely the best character in this entire list here. However, not a lot of these legends here are very good in Rumble, except for Jack, I guess. The rest are not really that good at all. I mean, Chopper definitely sees some play on shooter teams. But then you got like Trafalgar Law and Rayleigh Gaban for 600. I understand why they're doing that, but 600 medals for these characters is very, very steep. So once again, the best thing to do is to use your medals towards the end of the month, because, you know, you may pull some of these characters on upcoming Sugo Fest. So do keep that in mind. But that's going to wrap it up for me. Hopefully you enjoyed the video today. And if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all of the content that I post on my channel, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.